I'm writing this essay sitting beside an anonymous white male that I long to murder. We have just been involved in an incident on an aeroplane where Kay, my friend and travelling companion, has been called to the front of the plane and publicly attacked by white female stewardesses who accuse her of trying to occupy a seat in first class that is not assigned to her. Although she had been assigned a seat, she was not given the appropriate boarding pass. When she tries to explain, they ignore her. They keep explaining to her in loud voices as though she is a child, as though she is a foreigner who does not speak airline English, that she must take another seat. Realising our powerlessness to alter the moment we take our seats, Kay moves to coach, and I take my seat next to the anonymous white man, who quickly apologises. I stare him down with rage, tell him that I do not want to hear his liberal apologies, his repeated insistence that it was not his fault. I'm shouting at him, and that is not a question of blame, that the mistake was understandable, but by the way Kay was treated was completely unacceptable, that it reflected both racism and sexism. He let me know in no uncertain terms that he felt his apology was enough, and that I should leave him to sit back and enjoy his flight. Yelling at him, I said, it was not a question of your giving up your seat. It was an occasion for you to intervene in the harassment of a black woman, and you chose your own comfort and tried to deflect away from your complicity in that choice by offering an insincere, face-serving apology. I felt a killing rage. I wanted to stab him softly, to shoot him with a gun I wish I had in my purse. And as I watched his pain, I would say to him tenderly, racism hurts. With no outlet, my rage turned to overwhelming grief, and I began to weep, covering my face with my hands all around me. Everyone acted as though they could not see me, as though I were invisible, with one exception. The white man seated next to me watched suspiciously whenever I reached for my purse, as though I were the black nightmare that haunted his dreams. He seemed to be waiting for me to strike, to be the fulfillment of his racist imagination. I leaned towards him with my legal pad and made sure he saw the title written in bold print, Killing Rage.
Bell Hooks, Killing Rage, Militant Resistance, 1995. Kay is treated as though she does not belong. She's not simply moved from one seat to another, she's put back in her place. This is not an individual act of mistreatment, it is a sign of racism, sexism, and white comfort protecting itself. Hooks yelling at the white man is not irrational, it is a response to injustice when no avenue for redress remains. It is a scream for an acknowledgement of violence. Yet, behind the curtain of racist fantasy of black violence, Hooks remain invisible. What happens if we refuse to see rage as excess, if we understand rage as political? Women's rage has historically been dismissed or seen as illegitimate. Western political philosophy has traditionally focused on regulating emotions and passions. In this context, politics has been influenced by ideas of rationality, restraint, and self-control. Concepts regarded as masculine virtues, while emotion have been associated with femininity, weakness, and a lack of critical distance.
Woman is more compassionate than man, more easily moved to tears. At the same time is more jealous, more querulous, more apt to scold and strike.
Aristotle, Historia Animalium, cited in Clarke, 1982. Among the emotions to be controlled, anger has been particularly threatening.
Anger is above all other hideous and wild, raging with an utterly inhuman lust for arms, blood, and tortures. Anger is a short madness.
Seneca, cited in Cherry, 2021. These ideas are not mere testimonies of a biased past. They continue to shape how women are judged in public and political spheres. Displays of emotions are still often treated as sign of weakness rather than a legitimate political response. Women's emotional expression is not read as evidence of injustice, but as an evidence against their character. The impossibility of expressing emotions traps women's experience within a closed box. It prevents women from fully articulating the violence they encounter, and masks the social inequalities that affect marginalized groups. Anger sits awkwardly within feminist political thought. Martha Nussbaum warns that anger often contains a desire for payback. For Nussbaum, retributive desire is morally problematic and politically unproductive, because it keeps politics attached to punishment rather than to repair and transformation. Rage can become trapped in revenge and reproduce harm. But Nussbaum does not account for the fact that women's anger is often dismissed before it can become a political demand. Female rage is denied meaning at the very moment it appears. Sarah Ahmed helps us understand how this dismissal works. Emotions are not simply private feelings, they circulate socially. They attach to bodies and create associations that persist over time. This shapes who is seen as dangerous, who is allowed to be hurt, and who is blamed. In the airplane, the white man fears Hooks reaching into her purse. She is imagined as the threat, even though her rage is a response to violence. Her body is threatening in and of itself. Hammett's figure of the feminist killjoy is crucial here. The feminist killjoy points out injustice and is then blamed for disrupting the peace. She becomes the problem because she names the problem. Her anger is not read as response to harm, but as causing discomfort. Violence is displaced, no longer located in Kay's humiliation or in the white man's complicity, but in Hook's speech. Her rage interrupts white comfort. She becomes the disturbance, the killjoy. Kimberlé Crenshaw's work on intersectionality reminds us that women are not positioned equally before power. Race, gender, sexuality, and other structures of oppression shape whose anger is recognized. Black women's rage is often read through racist views of aggression and threat, even when it emerges from harm. In The Use of Anger, Audre Lorde shows that anger is full of knowledge. It reveals the structure that we are routinely asked to ignore. Anger can be an energy for change. Lorde asks us to feel our anger, to listen to what it knows. Anger becomes useful when it is worked through, articulated, and directed. It becomes the fertile ground from which feminist knowledge and action can grow creatively.
I did not kill the white man on the plane, even though I remain awed by the intensity of that desire. I did listen to my rage, allow it to motivate me, and take pen in hand and write in the heart of that moment.
Bell Hooks, Killing Rage, Militant Resistance, 1995. Hooks refuses denial. She turns rage into writing. While Frantz Fanon writes about violence in the specific context of colonialism, he helps us to think about rage in relation to structural violence. For Fanon, anti-colonial violence does not appear as the beginning of violence, but as the response to a world already structured by violence. Colonialism dehumanizes the colonized subject. Rage, then, is a response to an existing violent condition. When people live under structural violence, the demands for calm are yet another form of domination. But then, how can rage and self-defense be transformed into political agency without endlessly reproducing violence? How do we take care of our rage without becoming the mirror images of domination? Arendt warns us not to romanticize violence. She distinguishes violence from power. Power emerges when people act together, while violence is instrumental. Violence can destroy, interrupt, and expose a regime, but it cannot by itself create legitimate political power. Rage may reveal injustice, and violence may emerge as a response, but violence cannot be the horizon of liberation. How do we build the world we want to live in? This is where social movements matter. When institutions do not listen, when legal systems do not protect, when polite speech is ignored, rage enters the political landscape as refusal, occupation, and disruption. Rage becomes collective. It moves from the private injury to the public contestation. In social movements, rage can break the smooth surface of normality. It can expose that peace is not peaceful for everyone. Rage needs to be organized and become accountable.
For the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house,
Writes Lorde. If feminist politics reproduces domination and punishment, it risks rebuilding the very structure it seeks to destroy. This is where rage must meet radical care. Radical care asks, how do we build forms of resistance that do not depend on domination? While care can be misunderstood as softness, radical care is not the opposite of rage. It is what rage can become when it refuses domination. Tronto shows that feminist care seeks to change the moral perspective itself. In this framework, care is a matter of collective responsibility and a feminist political project that challenges intersecting hierarchies and privileges. Here, care is not a retreat from politics. It is a practice of survival. It is about ensuring that everyone has access to time, resource, and social and physical infrastructures that allow people to provide and receive care. Only with this kind of collective support can radical change occur, and unotherwise realized. As Lorde puts it,
Caring for myself is not self-indulgence, it is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare.
Audre Lorde, 1988.